And so if I, by myself, is illness, and if we together is wellness, that means there's a receiver and a giver all the time. My strength could be your weakness could be my strength. And this is what we say, that there's the weakest link of the chain. It's all for one and one for all, because we're all part of the same chain. So the society itself will plummet if enough members are plummeting. The group itself will plummet if enough are plummeting. The relationships that we have with teams will plummet if there's portions plummeting. You can't carry the couch by yourself, and no one can do that. So we, in this way, it's like the first step is saying to be a receiver for health and wellness, or strength and endurance, whatever it is. Instead of being the provider, that means now maybe you'll call this shopping around, but we have to see what is the best. What is the most endurance? What is the wellness? Am I really the top? And that means you have to go and look and see what are the providers offering. Identify what's the highest offer that's present. What's the highest strength? And we do this for something like, you might look online and see which cable charges the fastest or which wire is the strongest. But if you look about the chain that makes up connections, it's invisible. Again, like I mentioned earlier, it's invisible, but it's very real. So these invisible, debts could be national, could be groups, and in other words, there's a deficit. So you have to see who's offering the most. And if I say that I could give you, for example, wellness, that I have enough to share, then I'm also saying that you're going to have to provide that much. So, in other words, compromise is trust. So you're going to have to trust me that much, for example, if I'm going to guide you. So in the delivery, it's like we trust that we'll both deliver what we promised. I am going to support you in the way that I made it sound like I would. You're not going to be left hanging or forgotten. Otherwise, the struggle happens. And there's no need to keep proving that we have credentials, that we have credit. At the right times it'll be presented, it'll be clear if we actually do have credibility and if we're reliable. And and this is the puzzle of trust, is like, promise. We're compromising, means we're both promising together to deliver what we promised. And also that if we don't have enough to share, we're going to go and get what we need. So we're going to go get the tools. If I myself am not able to continue doing the project, I might go get support or other supplies. I may go have to shop around and see what's available, what's the highest level now that could be offered. And this is true, obviously, for delivering, for the deliverer, the one who's giving, whatever it is, and the one who's being the deliveree, which is the receiver, the one who's the delivery, not an object like being delivered like your delivery is here, but there's a deliverer and a deliveree, the recipient of the deliverer. And this is for self-learning, because we can even take this a little bit closer to home, and literally home, and say father and mother. So the mother is the first other. The other wound is often called the mother wound, because whatever we might project into the darkness of what's not taken form yet, what's not available, what hasn't been delivered, whether there's trust, whether there feels like there's not enough, all of that. Everyone we meet can be that version of mother, because it was all rooted in where we started from. It caused pathways of learning to form from the beginning of our own brain system. So we heal each other is how we heal each mother. We heal each one of us is a different version of our mother. We heal the one who could be delivering us something in that moment, or we're delivering something in that moment. And, in this idea of it's not all doomed to fail. We're practicing puzzle solving. So even in school, we would say alma mater means other mother or second mother. And healing means other. Because if a father's around, when I say healing means other, it means there's a unity happening. So healing is like when you have a wound, it divides, and then healing means it becomes now back functional again. But if it was like this, anytime you pull, it would just make it worse. So when I say healing means there's an other, I'm saying that when the father is around with the mother, then literally he's around her. She doesn't get to feel like she's different. She can't relate. She doesn't have to press parts of her down into herself. And she doesn't have to make the child the other, her own mother issue. So this other versions of herself, which cannot exist, don't have to be projected onto this child, because there's a man who's reflecting by being around her. So this other, he doesn't other her. He doesn't other her, objectify her, doesn't, push her away, make her not be related. And this is all to do with power dynamics, because when she says, I need help, he doesn't punish her. When she says, we need to do this together, he doesn't punish her. When she says, he's not trying to get everything he could out of her before it's, before she's gone, like he's planning for when she's going to be gone. He's investing, he's taking time. It's a puzzle sometimes when her moods, her menstruation cycles, everything become complicated. And we would say now in partnership, right? Now I'm transitioning into partnership, horizontal leadership. And we practice this with one another, but it becomes the portal to do it with everybody. So it's really hard where each one teaches one. Really, we have been in a mostly patriarchal society where one person, kind of knows everything. And we love this idea. Like some people even cling to wanting to be the one who knows everything. And I will admit, sometimes I miss having a man, ideal man, who's in charge of everything. Who will take care of me, who will, be the one for everything, who always knows exactly what's happening, who can always take care of the house and protect me. But I've never actually met a man like that. So there's this patriarchal system built on a fantasy of a man who is actually perfect, born above all others, we used to say royalty and everything, and everybody can centralize around them, versus the humbling that's required to actually grow. And in order to know, you have to be able to grow. It means you don't know everything right away. And the most righteous people are the most humble. The ones who claim that they don't know everything are the ones everyone surrounds around to learn from. So clearly there's like this relationship between the person who thinks they're the one who knows everything and always has the answer. And I kind of miss the idea of us all gathering around that one, who wants to reassure us that he knows everything. But actually what I find most reassuring, and for most people that I meet, is to have somebody who doesn't claim to know everything. That's the grace. That's the grace of them being open to grow. This is teaching them every moment. Even them talking with you about what they don't know is teaching them. And they're listening to you. They know that you might have something to offer. There's humility there that it's harder to know. In order to know, it's harder to know in order to know, because it's harder to know to not know. It's harder to not know in order to know, because then we have to admit we actually don't know. And the required willingness is to be changeable or teachable. We'll give the blessing of the knowing. If we claim that it's so great to know, then wouldn't we want to make ourselves knowable, like growable, teachable? That requires willingness to be transformed, which means to learn, which requires us to not know. If we're learning something, it's new to us. We haven't learned it before. And so that's growable. And how do we kind of bring all this together? The whole society, the family, the family home, the workplace environment, and then I'm going to go even deeper into just this idea of puzzles inside of ourselves, now that we keep getting closer. But where does this come from? And it's about this idea of the brain blinking, so that where it came from is what I know. Pauses, that perspective pauses, and then it tells me, where is it going? I can predict. It's close to what I know. It's not exactly what I know. It's the future, right? That perspective blinks. And then we have the perspective of, what is it right now? Do I know what it is right now? Pause. And that's necessary for puzzle solving, because it shows us where we're uncertain. It shows us the power dynamics. And power dynamics could be thought of without having to be like power struggle. It's more about like if you have a lever, and it's most powerful to press that way because that's the angle where it's the sturdiest, versus if you push that way, it will just fall. So it's not very empowered in that position. So we would say power dynamics has a lot to do with the positions of the power arrangement. It's not personal the way that I'm speaking about it here. And obviously fundamentals and values and societal problems come to light. And puzzles now here are, I'm defining as challenging moments. Challenging, not personal. It's not like somebody's telling you, I'm testing you and you better pass. It's more like, I don't have the skills yet. There's something to learn. I need to grow. There's new information. I'm being taught something. I'm humble. I'm open. That is it. And the aspects which require focus. So the aspects are all these areas where we have to have willingness. So it requires focus. Pay attention to what's new. Pay attention to what I don't know. Pay attention to my reaction to the interaction. Pay attention to how much I need to know and how much I want to know, and be the one who knows, or in any aspect. And the reason I'm sharing all this is because I find these moments, these aspects, to be infinitely harvestable. And now I'll tell you why. Some puzzles are designed for failing out of mercy, so that we could learn things we could otherwise never have known. Because in this way, when we make the mistake, we feel like crap. Maybe we're so attached to knowing, and here we were shown we didn't know, and we wanted to be the expert, but we weren't. In this case, we see that we're back to square one. And it could be a lot of shame, humiliation, hiding, but actually the surface that's being revealed here is different than what actually happened, because it looks like we're back at square one. That's the revealed surface. We made no progress. We don't know anything. But actually, in consequences, this base territory where I find myself once again, which once was totally new, I thought I knew everything, and now I'm back here because I didn't know, actually has become familiar. And that means that I've regressed, but not as if I didn't cover that territory, because that mistake I made seems worse at face value, at the level that I'm on. However, it's the aftermath. In the aftermath, it's the aftermath education. After the math, it's the education. So after the math of I did this, it didn't work, back at square one, I now have education. When you sometimes are solving a puzzle in math, and actually it's told that math puzzles heal emotional difficulties, and there's plenty of studies for that. So, in other words, depersonalize. They depersonalize problem solving, in other words. So, solving an equation, you see, they have to be balanced. So I'm putting in this much effort and the person's not, and then I'm taking it so personal. But actually, you start to see it in a more abstract way that is less pertinent to your value as a human, so, or whoever, however you identify. So, more specifically than just human. But it's an education to mistake. Now, I'm using the word mistake here not to say you did something wrong, but to say you mistook. Now, how is this a math problem? Because a mistake is a verb. It's not a noun always. It's also a noun. But as a verb, it's to mistake the situation, is to misproportion it, mismeasure. And, we would say in long division, you cannot break the remainder. You have to store it for later. So let's say you did this little practice of something and it didn't work. You failed. You have a remainder. You have a remainder of knowledge now you have about what works and what doesn't. But you cannot break it up and say it doesn't exist, or I'm going to, say that my effort canceled it out, it nullified. It didn't. Actually, every action has a greater equal reaction. And this is in math and chemistry and physics. We know you put something in, you get something out. So now you see what you put in, you see what you get out of it. It's information you can store for later. You can store for later the remainder of this circumstances. So your puzzle gave you information that you'll need later. When you're playing Mario Kart and you're going through the levels, sometimes you fail 10 times, but you learn all about the level. You learn all about the texture and environment and climate of all the rooms and all the tunnels and all the other players and opponents. Finally, our fundamental takeaway from this is that if every action has a greater equal reaction, and this is true for abstract, for physical, like measurements and proportions, and then also for like the experience, like the physics, like the motion, the emotions, how things are, the speed of things, how things evolve, then we know that every effort must be linked with reward, every contribution with benefit. Now, the word contribution, I want to comment and say co-tribute. Co-tribute. So you tribute, I tribute. We make tribute together, we co-tribute. So I don't give to you and you give to me. This is like what I said earlier about the deliverer and the deliveree. We're not giving each other anything. Together, we can bring more wellness in. So we do a co-tribute together to wellness together. And then finally, if we're looking at it from a mathematical perspective, pain is order because the suffering must have meaning. It's information that'll help us for a future. So I am so grateful for you sharing this time and wishing you well on your puzzles. Be well.